Hey guys, it's time for the next cooking video. Tonight I'm going to do something I usually don't do. I'm going to make something I have not made before, but I found the recipe on Facebook. So I have all my ingredients out. Make sure you check out the link for the ingredients and the exact how-tos. Right now I have my oven preheating to 350 and I have a pan on the stove already warming up to brown my ground beef. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is add my ground beef to a preheated pan so I can start browning it. I sometimes add a little oil depending on the fat content of the meat. And even though I'm going to add taco seasoning later, I do like to add some salt and pepper. Give it some good flavor and good smell while it cooks. My hamburger's still just barely frozen in the middle, but since I'm going to be cooking it directly on the stovetop like this, not too worried about it. So I'm going to let that start to cook and brown while I prepare my veggies. First, I'm going to cut the tops off my red peppers. I'm going to remove everything that's inside. Sometimes you can do it with your fingers. Sometimes just taking the knife around and cutting it loose will make it easier. Dump the seeds. Remove as much of the flesh as you can. Set it aside. My stem broke off, that's okay. Normally I would have more than 2 peppers, but I didn't know this is what I was going to make with this particular dinner. So we're just going to have 2 peppers tonight, and the rest I'm going to use for leftovers for tacos. So once those are ready to go, I'm going to set them in my dish and set my dish aside while I chop my onion. Alright, I took a break to stir my beef and take a drink of wine. So, cutting an onion, it's always best if you can to have the sharpest knives that you can, obviously being careful. I usually just like to cut both ends off. I like to cook with white onions and use red onions in salads and burgers. A lot of times I will take off the outer layer of the onion skin. It can sometimes be a little green and a little rough. This one doesn't look like it would be that way. But now I've got my onion ready to cut. Based on what I'm making tonight, I want about a 1/4 cup of chopped onion. So knowing what I'm going to use my onion for in the future, I'll just cut it in half like that. Makes it a lot easier now to cut what I need. Lay it flat, and I just slice a couple of small slices going through. We'll start with that much. Lay it on its side, and just chop it into pieces. It's best to use a straight edge knife when you're cutting onion. You'll want to use a serrated knife whenever you're cutting tomatoes. Okay, about 10 minutes later, the ground beef is browned. I sometimes drain it depending on how much liquid there is, whether it's from fat or just moisture. Sometimes to determine whether or not I'm going to do that, I'll tip the pan to see how much I get. In this case, I might go ahead and try to drain some of that off before I proceed with cooking. Okay, now that my ground beef is drained, I'll put it back on the stove. I will add my chopped onion, my green chilies. I've taken the lid off and drained most of the liquid. My taco seasoning, I like to make homemade taco seasoning, which is why it's in this container rather than a packet. And enchilada sauce that I will pour, based on what I saw, roughly a 1/4 to a 1/2 cup. I'm just going to kind of ish it for now and see what I get when I stir this all up, if I need to add more. I don't want it too soupy for the peppers, or if I use it leftover for tacos, but in this case I am going to add just a little bit more. I would estimate that to be about a total of 3/4 cup to 1 cup total that I've added. And I might call that good. We'll see how this first batch cooks up. I'm gonna let this sit for just a second. Let the onions get a little bit cooked, and then I'll stuff the peppers and put them in the oven. Fun fact, this is called, I don't know why, a church key. That is what I use to open the enchilada sauce for pouring. Anytime you're pouring just a liquid, this works fine. You'll want to do an opening on both sides so that you have that airflow that allows it to pour. I'm going to fill each pepper almost halfway full with my ground beef mixture. I'm going to top it with just a handful of shredded cheese. In this case, I'm using Mexican blend. Then I'm going to layer that again. More of the beef mixture, and then more cheese. Because in this case the beef is all cooked through, I can compact it in there a little bit more. And then I'm going to top each one back with the top of the pepper, which had I cut them just a little bit deeper by taller peppers next time, they would still have the stem on them. I'm going to put them in the oven and let them bake for not sure how long. I'll let you know. And voila! Roughly 30 minutes later, they're done. If they still had the stem, I'd be able to grab it by the stem, but you'll just be able to take the top off and serve and enjoy.